In this video, let's take a look at possible interaction between all of these objects and demonstrate how a controller basically communicates information between the views and the model tier of our application. So here's a timeline of events that shows possible user interaction with the system, and we can trace object creation and interaction between our business objects, our views, and the controller. So this is an operating system. So the operating system naturally invokes the main function. The main function begins to execute, and the first thing that it does, it creates a copy of controller. I know about this because we have this indication here that says new, which means create new instance of the controller class. So the object is being constructed. The controller, as it's being constructed as an object in memory, decides to construct two business objects that it needs to be able to operate. It's the thermostat and the heater. Of course, these two classes are responsible for controlling the actual physical appliances. So once again, we have new and new as part of the controller creation right here. And so we now create the thermostat and the heater. And then we return from constructing this. And so the main function receives back a copy of the controller. So now we have the controller and the thermostat and the heater objects now in memory. The main function continues to execute. Down here, this is the timeline of events. And the next step that naturally the main function does, it calls into the controller and tells the controller, let's display the main menu. So the controller now creates a new main menu view object. So this object is responsible apparently for showing this main screen, the main menu, which says to the user that they can make these choices: display current temperature, set thermostat, switch scale, or exit the system. Right, so this screen now is in front of the user. And this is where the main function is ending. So it returns back to the system. However, the entire application is not exiting. It's a very common situation that in a graphical user interface environment, the main function is a short execution, because then now this main view is responsible for not just showing the user the screen, not just showing this screen to the user, but also is responsible for waiting for the user action. So there's nothing happening. We just wait when the user will click or select a specific menu item or make some other action. So now this is showing that the system now notifies our application that they're making a choice to set the thermostat. So apparently the user wants to change the temperature of the thermostat. So this call naturally is received by the main view. So the main view is responsible for handling user actions. As part of this handling, the main view goes directly to the controller and says, let's display set thermostat screen. The controller, part of this execution, creates the next view, which is set thermostat. Right? So this little bar right here is showing that this is part of the creation of the thermostat view. And so apparently when this completes right here, when this call, controller handles this call, when this call completes, what we should be seeing on our screen is the set thermostat screen. Just as an example, if the user made the choice to set thermostat temperature, this is the next screen for them to see. All right, so when this completes, basically this action is over, and we return the control back to the system so that now we wait for the next action by the user. And it happens that they say set a specific heating temperature. Perhaps they type new value into the screen, so they change the value of the current thermostat setting, right? And as a result, they click a button to confirm that they want to set the new setting, and naturally this action by the user is handled by the current view, which is set thermostat view. So it receives this notification from the operating system, and it does, it communicates to the controller. Remember that all business actions in our business domain that we're trying to operate in are all handled by the business tier, but when the view wants to communicate information to the business tier, it must go through the controller, because we established before that controller serves as a boundary between these two tiers, and the only way that the view can communicate to any of the business objects is by making a call to the controller, which in its own turn will decide how to delegate this call to which specific business object or combination of them. And so this is what happens. So now the controller receives this call to set a heating temperature right here. So we're looking at this part of our execution. And it also makes a call to set heating temperature of the thermostat. And you can see that the thermostat decides that at this specific level, because of the current specific value of the current temperature, it wants to turn the heater on. And so as a result of this action, user clicking a button confirming new temperature setting on their screen, we made all these calls, and we found a way to go to the thermostat, then go to the heater and turn the heater on. So upon return from the heater and returning from the call set heating temperature in thermostat, and then returning from the controller, this view may actually decide to return back to the operating system and wait for the next user action. We, of course, could continue this sequence of events or actions by user and function calls between these objects interacting with each other to display, for instance, that we return control to the main menu. And at this stage, we could have gotten rid of the thermostat view because now we want to return back to the main view upon successful setting of the new temper. And we now wait for the next user action inside the main menu. So here I just wanted to show you a possible practical interaction between objects at runtime. So once again, these are the parts of, the working parts of our system, starting with an operating system, the main function, and these are all objects that receive calls of specific actions that we want to perform. And down here we have the time, showing the timeline that shows what events are taking place. Of course, this diagram is very specific to the user action, because the user is just captures specific user actions such as set thermostat and set heating temperature, because the users made these choices on their screen. If the users were making different choices, this diagram, of course, would be different, because we'd be displaying different kind of interaction between our objects. But in general, this demonstrates the behavior of the model view controller architecture, where whether you look at this diagram or the diagram that I just showed you, you will see that the business tier never communicates directly to the view tier or presentation tier, and vice versa. The presentation tier also has to go by the controller in order to request certain actions to be executed by the business tier or business objects that implement the actual business of our application.